Hello everybody, this is Shady here, and for today's video, obviously Shady recommends again, and today I'm going to talk about one of the quintessential classic survival horror games. I'm in fact talking about Resident Evil, the first one. Yeah, and I mean obviously this is a classic, I think everyone knows about it, but you know, it is a bit older and there might be younger gamers who haven't played this game yet, so we're going to talk about Resident Evil. So first things first, let's give a bit of history lesson. Okay, so if you guys don't know, Capcom made a game called Sweet Home for the NES. And this was basically a kind of horror-inspired RPG where you play as a group of investigators who enter a haunted building, and you kind of, depending on how you do things, will determine how the story goes. Certain characters can there's permadeath involved and all sorts. You kind of explore this thing, and it's a really cool, creepy horror game. But from the ashes of that, there came the idea to kind of revive the horror genre, and then obviously that became Resident Evil. Obviously this game was created by Shinji Mikami, who obviously went on to make all sorts of incredible games with Capcom. Obviously a Capcom game, as you know. Yeah, so what makes this game so great is, like a lot of people say, it kind of invented survival horror, even though technically the first survival horror was Alone in the Dark, I guess. But they try to, Mikami pretends that that game never existed. But I mean, this is kind of the game that I guess popularized survival horror, really. And obviously, if you don't know what survival horror is, pretty much it's all about resource management and fighting off enemies, pretty much. Obviously, it's kind of become more than that, but essentially, you're in the premise of Resident Evil. Your Alpha team, you're the STARS team. You're going to basically find out what happened to Alpha Team in the Arklay Mountains, because there's been all these reports of monsters and or attacks on people where people have actually been eaten. You go in, you get attacked by these dogs, you go into the mansion, and then it's a case of pretty much finding out what the hell happened and getting out of there. And then obviously survival horror, like I mentioned, it's all about resource management, so you have to basically pick your fights. It's all about exploration, so you obviously, explore this mansion, you have to do puzzles to get keys to be able to unlock other doors. Almost an element of Metroid in there, I guess, if you will, where it's all about kind of almost exploring the labyrinth in a way. You'll find a door, it'll say you need like a shield key, which means, whoa, obviously I'm gonna have to come back later. You kind of have to remember about these doors, and there's a lot of backtracking, or going back and forth, revisiting areas, finding files, figuring out what the hell's going on, fighting all sorts of monsters. Obviously you have your basic enemies, which are the zombies, then you have the dogs, you have all sorts of other cool creatures as well. It's kind of like, it's got a lot of great inspiration from Western horror, obviously, but with the Japanese twist, which is what I really like. What's great is you essentially go into what is like a haunted mansion almost, but then it has like, it's not supernatural, it's like actually scientific, kind of the explanation for everything. And obviously what makes this game great is you get to play as two characters. You either have Chris or Jill, both members of STARS. So basically Jill is essentially the easy mode. One mechanic I need to explain is you have item slots in this game, so you can only carry a certain amount of items. That's one element of the kind of resource management I was talking about. So obviously you'll have safe rooms which will have these kind of item boxes where you can put other items, and one of the things you have to do is kind of make sure you're not carrying too much so that you can actually get other items, and it's all about being as efficient as you can. So Jill will give you 8 item slots and Chris will only have 6. Jill basically gets a little bit more help from a different character and gets the better weapons pretty much. So yeah, Jill is your kind of first like playthrough, and then Chris you'll play second time. It's just a really classic game. And obviously why I want to talk about this one in particular is because of the cheesy voice acting and just a lot of great classic lines, very B-movie-esque. I think it's a game that if you've played the later Resident Evils, you should definitely try out. There is a remake, obviously. The remake is basically like the game if it had more of a budget, more refined, and was done as more of a serious horror. But this original game is basically the kind of cool, cheesy beginnings. Yeah, and it's just a really fun game. Takes a little bit getting used to. Obviously, there's some slight differences with versions, which I need to explain. Obviously, you know, if you're going to play the game now, yeah, more than likely you're either going to play it on the PS5/4 because it's available as the classics. That is the kind of director's cut, which is kind of like the improved version. Essentially, there's 3 versions. Okay, so which I should probably explain. So obviously, we have the original version on the PS1. Which had no auto aiming, which means you have to kind of manually aim. Obviously, this game is like fixed camera angles and temp controls, so it controls a bit wonky, but you get used to it. And yeah, you basically don't lock onto enemies straight away in this original version, so it's a little bit more challenging. Then they updated it they released the director's cut, which basically added all the auto aim and a few little extra things here and there, some costumes and stuff. And then there was a third version, the DualShock version, which we never got over here, but is available in North America and Japan. Added a whole new soundtrack, which there's an amazing story behind. The composer of that pretended to be deaf or something to try to become famous. Had someone else basically writing his music and wanted to become popular. And yeah, the soundtrack is terrible by that version. So I suppose if you want it, you can get it that way. There's also obviously the good old games GOG version, which is probably the most kind of accessible version. That's basically the PC version of the game. The old Windows version, but obviously it's more accessible now. You've also got 2 and 3 on there as well if you want to play them. Yeah, and obviously my personal favorite version is Deadly Silence, which was basically a DS port of the game for the 10-year anniversary, but also adds a really cool rebirth mode, which adds some extra bells and whistles. What's great about this version is it turns the knife into its own item, and you have like the quick turn, and it like modernizes it the best way. Obviously, if you want to play on a big screen, you probably want to play the PlayStation version. So, but yeah, really great game, and one I can't suggest or recommend even more. Yeah, check it out if you want to, if you want a nice horror game. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.